Hey there, I'm Tony from Marathon Mates. This week we're giving another shout out to the iconic marathon races on our bucket list. Back in episode 59, we shared our dream races, and now we're adding some more. Maybe our lists are going to match yours. Let's find out. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Tony from the Marathon Mates, and welcome to episode 85 of The Flying Runner. Today, we're going to be adding to our bucket list marathons, which we shared back in episode 59. So first up, let's welcome in the co-hosts. I've got Lucia from the wonderful new city major called Sydney. And underneath, we've got Team Mellis, who've got a bit of a story to share about the weekend. How are we all?
Good. Thanks, Tony. How are you?
I am fantastic. So let's get the elephant out of the room. We've got a wounded marathon mate. So, Tim, what happened?
Well, we went up to Botania Island Parkrun up the Sunshine Coast, and it's one of the newest parkruns here in southeast Queensland. It's been going for about 5 weeks or so, and got a really good parkrun in. I ran probably the fastest time I've run for at least 6 months, and maybe even more, probably closer to 12 months that I've gone really fast at a parkrun. Had a really good event. Tara was there where she caught up with some of our friends, Julie and Ron and Gwen and Margaret. And afterwards, as I do and as Tara does, we'll go back and walk back for some people in parkrun and run home with some of them. And I got to the turnaround point where we turned around and I rolled my ankle on the edge of the concrete path that we were on. And I went down really hard and I actually landed on the edge of the concrete on my elbow and on my ribs. And I've fractured the radial head in my elbow, which is the top of the radius bone. And I've got a crack to the rib as well from landing on it. So I can't laugh at the moment because it really hurts, and I can't get a lot of deep breathing in, and I can't move my arm very much. But other than that, I'm okay.
It was a weird sort of a sad day. I saw the time you posted in your parkrun. I thought, geez, that's quick. That's 23 minutes and something. And then all of a sudden you've got the message coming out through our chat channels of the injury, which you got walking.
Yes, not running, okay. Walking.
Yeah, yep, is there a story there?
Yeah, just don't walk, run, I guess. But yeah, just be careful, I guess, is the other story around edges on concrete paths. Just like you, Tony, you rolled an ankle on a concrete path edge a little while ago and almost destroyed your Tokyo hopes. So I did the same when walking, and fortunately the ankle's okay. I could run on the ankle right now if I could. Yeah. But the rib and the arm, and probably the rib is the thing that hurts the most. The arm will be the arm and it will move again and do its thing. But the rib is the sorest bit, yeah.
Yeah. And we're under strict instructions, Lucia, not to make Tim laugh. So for our listeners out there, if we do happen to make Tim laugh, that there's probably going to be some pain and some wincing going on. But Lucia, how was your weekend? Obviously, you're in fine form and good shape and not injured.
Not injured, thank God. I'm in my last pre-week of training.
How many weeks do you need?
I know I'm not meant to make you laugh, but I know it's a topic you don't find funny, so I had to get it in there. Training went well on Saturday. I did my usual run club Tuesday, Thursday, and I actually managed to go Saturday. One of my fastest runs down to the harbour in a while, so I was really happy. Another humid day in Sydney on Sunday, so it wasn't pleasant. But again, surprisingly, went well. Yeah, no. So luckily, I'm uninjured, and one thing I'm ecstatic about, my favorite spin instructor is back. She had the best one-liners. You can walk into that class feeling miserable as anything, but walking out feeling $1 million.
Well, that's awesome.
She's back.
That is awesome. Tara, how was your week right up until Saturday after Parkrun?
So one really good thing about Tim injuring himself is that I got a sleep yesterday morning. So I don't think I've laid in bed for a Sunday morning forever. So it was actually like, wow, okay. By 6:30, it was like, I've had enough of this and got out of bed. Didn't run, did a lot of housework, and I went for a treadmill run this morning. And I've just been sort of taking it easy this week. I've done a little bit of treadmill work, a bit of walking. I'm just trying to take it as easy as I can on recovery. I guess I'm on a pre-week as well. Is that
Pre-month.
Pre-week? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I'm actually really not doing much. So.
There's no such thing as multiple pre-weeks. You can only have one if you're going to have one, and I don't even believe you can have one.
Oh, stop it.
I agree with Tim. You can only have one pre-week, but maybe you can lead into the pre. I don't know. So I won't make Tim laugh. I won't get him raise his temperatures. I actually had a good training week last week. I did intervals there on Tuesday night. I think I did. No, Wednesday night it would have been. And I tucked on a pair of Saucony Endorphin Pros with the carbon plate, and because they're the shoes that have all my fast times for me, all my PRs were done in that shoe. And once again, I did 600-meter intervals, and for the first 600, I was at 5 minutes and 15-second pace. And I'm looking at my watch and I'm, my God, that's quick. I'm going well. Second one, I went 5:05 pace, and I'm going, my God, I'm running too fast. You know, I was getting in my head. My third one was 5 minutes and 10 seconds. And by that stage, I was blowing up deluxe. So my last two intervals to get through the 5 lots of 600s, I think were about 6:50. So a bit of a drop away. But it really highlighted something to me that, it was only my head saying that I was going too quick that slowed me down. So it was really interesting. On Saturday, I did a long run of about 12 kilometers. I was aiming for 15. And as I've come by the car to do my last loop of 3Ks, I saw Sharon sitting there under the shade, and I thought, yeah, that looks pretty good. So I stopped and was happy with 12, and then I backed it up with 6 on Sunday with my son. So not a bad training week for me, and I'm actually feeling okay. I got a little bit of a sciatica thing happening down my left side, my right side, but I'm not overly worried about it. Just every now and again, it feels a bit weak and painful, but it goes away pretty quick. So that's it from training. So this week, because Tim's a little bit incapacitated, I'm going to call on Lucia, who's got all the news. All right, Lucia, tell us what's been happening.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Tony. So just going from our discussion, I think it was last week. Now, I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. The Magome half marathon is that there's talk about that now being classified as the world's fastest half. Mm-hmm. So for the first time in history, 2 Japanese runners ran under 60 minutes, and 130 runners came in under 63 minutes. So just to break it down just a little bit further, so there were 4 runners at sub 60, 24 at sub 61, 82 at sub 62, and 133 at sub 63 minutes. And just to put that into comparison with some other faster halves, so Houston, which was only a few weeks ago, they had 4 sub 60, 14 sub 61, 30 sub 62, and 39 sub 63. And then when we have a look at Valencia, which normally is a very fast fall, they so when they had their half in 2024, they had 9 at sub 60, 13 at sub 61, 26 at sub 62, and 49 at sub 63. So it's interesting to see that the Japanese race is becoming known as one of the fastest halves.
Yeah, that's interesting. You would have bet on Valencia being the fastest, but Gami, or however it's pronounced.
Gami.
Yeah, it certainly has taken it by storm. And just to reiterate, Andy Buchanan, second fastest half marathon in Australia's history, with his time, and of course Izzy Bat Doyle. Have I got that right? Isabel broke the Australian record, which stood for decades.
Yeah, 25 years or something like that.
Awesome.
And then something else that I found really interesting, kind of going away from the marathon running, about the Glasgow Commonwealth Games. Now, for any of our overseas listeners, the Com Games are a scaled down version of the Olympic Games, and it occurs every 4 years, and it brings nations together from the former British Empire. So Australia is one of those countries which takes part. Originally, the Games were meant to be in Victoria in 2026. However, I think it was about 18 months ago, maybe nearly 2 years, that government pulled out due to costs. And there was, and the 2026 Games were at risk of not being run, but Glasgow has stepped in. However, it's on a smaller scale with fewer sports and events. So that does impact the athletics a little bit. So normally, so two of the major changes they've done, they aren't doing the 1,500 meters anymore. They are replacing it with the mile, and that's making the last time that the mile race made an appearance at a Com Games was in 1966, so very long time. But the bit that I'm excited about, they're introducing a mixed 4x400 relay. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that one plays out and which country is actually going to come on top.
They did that one at the Commonwealth, at the Olympic Games in Paris, didn't they? And I thought, was it the Dutch girls and guys won that, beat it from the Americans in the last lap there.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I think that one.
Yeah, I think there was.
Mixed relay. Because Femke Bole run the last 400 meters for the mixed females there and smashed it. So it's a great event because you have these changes in the lead up and down constantly. So I really like that idea of having a few different events, ones that you don't see at the big Diamond League events. And I like the mile idea as well because it's not a big step up for the guys or the girls who compete in the 1,500. But at the same time, they do run miles occasionally around the world. It's a bit like there's some odd distances, I think, like the 300 meters and, the 1,000 meters and things like that. They're all odd distances, but they do run them occasionally at some meets. So to have the mile up there is going to be awesome. And I think to have the 4x400 will also be awesome as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the interesting byline is that Ollie Hoare, the Australian who won the 1,500 at the last Commonwealth Games, retains being the 1,500 meter champion for another 4 years. So.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Now, one more piece of news, and when I saw this, I thought of Tara straight away. So, Tara, listen carefully because I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this one. So, a lady a British ultra runner by the name of Sophie Power recently shattered the women's 48-hour treadmill world record, covering a total of 370.9 kilometres or 230.5 miles at the recent National Running Show in the UK. So the previous record was 340 Ks, and Guinness World Records, they have they have confirmed that she does have the world record now in that. So Sophie is a seasoned endurance athlete. She has competed in over 50 ultra marathons, including the famous 106-mile UTMB, which starts, I'm going to get my countries wrong, I think it covers 3 countries. Like it's one of the hard trails to get into. And last year, she also became the fastest woman to run the length of Ireland, which was 558 Ks in 3 days, 12 hours and 8 minutes. And the thing that I really like about Sophie as well, and just beyond her records, she's also a champion for women in sport. She's the founder of She Races. And She Races advocates it advocates for gender equality in running races. So, and she had a kind of mixed strategy for the treadmill challenge, in which she was meant to have naps every so often, but it didn't work out. So ultimately, she only ran that 48-hour challenge nonstop because the times in which she tried to have a 15-minute nap, she just couldn't nap. Now, Tara, after your recent 23K on the treadmill, is this something you would consider doing?
I'm wondering how many treadmills she's got, because each treadmill obviously won't be able to run that long without a break. The motor in it would need a break. So has she got several treadmills that she's running on so that they can have a break with the motor? But yes, I would definitely do that. Like, I love treadmill running. I must be one of the very few people that actually really enjoy that monotonous, boring, you just get on, you don't have to think. It does it for you and your legs just turn over, and it's easy running for me. Like, I really enjoy it. So I would definitely do an ultra on the treadmill, without a doubt. Yeah. And 48 hours, I probably would have to sleep. But yeah, absolutely, I'd do it without even thinking about it. Yep.
I'm surprised. I thought the answer was going to go the complete opposite way.
Yeah, I would struggle to see Tara on a treadmill for anything more after your feelings of doing the half marathon the other week. I said there's no way Tara would do more than that. So you've surprised me, Tara, and that's okay.
So, it's only because it's in a controlled environment, and it's probably easier than going up and down hills of, the UTMB. So that's why I was thinking it.
So to put that in perspective, she ran that distance, 370 kilometers in 48 hours at only just 7-minute 46 kilometer pace.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, good on her. Crazy.
And guys, that's it for the news this week.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Lucia. And before we get going on our bucket list, let's do a little bit of a recap on what we came up with in our first episode 59. So if there's any listeners or watchers or viewers out there that are keen to hear about some of these marathons, go back to episode 59 and check them out. So Tim, do you remember your bucket list from the first episode 59?
I do. The 3 that I had was Patagonia, which is down the bottom of South America, which looks really, really fantastic. Bit of trail, bit of road, bit of cross-country like type landscape. Little Rock Marathon in Arkansas, because it's got the world's biggest marathon medal. Yeah. And Valencia, because you've got to be in Valencia. It's the unofficial major marathon, essentially, and it gets big crowds, big people, lots of runners, and very fast, serious runners there as well. So, yeah, Patagonia, Little Rock, and Valencia were my 3.
Okay, Tara.
Yeah, I remember doing Marathon de Mark, Reykjavik Marathon, and the Shot Over Moonlight Marathon in New Zealand. So, yeah.
So during the episode, you were talking about doing Marathon Medoc in 2026. Is that still on your plans?
Absolutely, yeah. Got to tick those bucket lists off. So that's on my planned bucket list forever until it's done, obviously. Yeah. And look, I think wine will be better for my stomach than Gatorade was. Let's test that theory, hey?
Absolutely. Lucia, yours, do you remember what yours were?
I do. So mine were London because very sentimental, even though I've done it. It's one of my favourites. A Marine Corps Marathon, which now this year our friends at Travelling Fit are doing it for the first time. So hopefully they keep doing it because all going well. It's on the plan for next year. And Rome was on my list as well.
Yeah, and just a little bit about that Travelling Fit. They were offering Marine Corps and New York together, which would have been a great double. And from what we can see, their New York packages are already sold out. So that's just incredible. My bucket list's Townsville Marathon because it would give my wife a chance to run in front of her family. Amsterdam, which funnily enough we're doing in October, and the Great Ocean Road here in Australia. So out of my 3 bucket lists, I knock over 2 of them this year. So I had to go looking for more. So yeah. So who wants to go first with your new bucket lists, or do you want me to choose?
I'll go.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Mine aren't marathons. I've gone a bit off the beaten track, and you guys won't be surprised. So my first one, it's actually, you can do a training/running camp in Iton, Kenya. There's this travel company in the UK, and they organise these camps, and you run with local guides. Like, you really immerse yourself in the Kenyan running culture. You get coached by Kenyan coaches, and it's done obviously at high altitude training. So because some of my follow on Instagram, he's actually there at the moment, and it just seems absolutely fascinating. They eat all the local foods. He's over beans at the moment because I think he's been eating it for about 3 weeks. But it would just be such a surreal experience to be able to run there where many legends are born. So that's one of mine. My next one, which I think if I had $1 for each time someone tagged me in this video, I could do another international marathon this year. So I appreciate everyone that has tagged me in it.
I think we've.
I think you guys did as well. So there's a Krispy Kreme donut run. There are a few of them around the world, but the one I was looking at is in Dubai, and it was run in December. So how it works is it's a 1K loop, and then at the end of the 1K loop, you come to a point where you can either finish, or if not, you go and get a donut, you eat the donut and you keep going. And then each time you have a donut, you get given a wristband. And so let's say if you do the 8 loops, you have 8 donuts, you get 8 bands. So ultimately it's up to you how far you want to go. And for those wondering, it's the original glazed.
And how far can you actually run?
I think it's 10 Ks.
So 10 donuts?
Yeah, I think even I have my limits. I don't know how far I could go, but it's one I'm willing to give a crack because I think it'd be an absolute hoot. And it's funny because seeing the videos, people do go and go, no, I'm not doing any more. I'm done. But if not, people keep going. So that was one of mine.
So 10 kilometers, 10 donuts, Dubai.
Yep.
In the heat.
That's a huge selling point. Just I can see how our viewers and our listeners clamoring to get to that one, Lucia.
But surprisingly, it's not only done in Dubai, it's done in a few cities in the States as well. I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's one day.
Yeah.
One day I've got to do it. Then the last one for me is Vegas. I would either because the strip isn't closed often, and this is one of the few times it is. So it's done over 2 days, and they do have challenges, but I think I would probably do just the 10K because it's run at night, and seeing the bright lights of Vegas lit up at night would just be an absolute hoot because it starts later in the day. I don't know how many drinks I would have had by then, so I don't think doing a half marathon when I'm a little bit tipsy would probably be the most ideal thing. So yeah, so all 3 of mine, they aren't marathons, and they each have their own quirkiness about them.
Would you dress as Elvis on that one?
You know what, Tim? I probably would.
Well, that looks awesome, that one. I know our friend Hayden Hubbard did it a couple of years ago, the year before, and it just looked awesome running down the strip with all the lights of all the casinos all going at the same time. Yeah.
Is that part of the...
Sorry?
Is Vegas part of the rock and roll series?
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
It used to be in November because when I did New York, one friend after New York, she went to Vegas and she did the 10K there, but they've moved it to February now.
Gotcha.
So just on the Krispy Kreme one, 10Ks, is it worth your while to fly that far for 10K race?
I would incorporate it as part of a holiday, but any excuse to eat, doesn't matter where.
Not putting down a 10K race or anything, but I don't know, if I was going to fly somewhere, I'd want to make it for a longer distance, maybe.
I don't know. For less.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think 10K, 10 Krispy Kreme. Why not? So yeah, it's my son's running the 7.5 in Amsterdam, and he's so excited now because it's finishing in the Olympic Stadium, and that's the day before. So, you know, people get excited to run no matter what the distance is. So you look at people who now plan holidays around park runs just to get in other countries. So, all right, that's very interesting, Lucia. So to our viewers out there, please make comments on Lucia's choices of bucket list. I'd love to hear what you think. So Tara, let's go next with you. What are you looking at it to add to your bucket list?
Well, I hope I'm not doubling up on anyone else's, but look, two of mine I have actually already done. So Queenstown Marathon is absolutely amazing. I would go back and do that again in a heartbeat if I could. I've done the half there and I've done the full marathon there, and it is amazing. It's done in November, so the weather can be a little bit iffy in Queenstown, New Zealand at that time of the year. It can be either snowing or it can be hot or it could be raining. So, but the actual track itself is just spectacular. The whole entire course is amazing. So if you want to trial something that's overseas but not too far if you live in Australia, definitely highly recommend the Queenstown Marathon. The other one I really want to do is Big Sur. So Big Sur Marathon is run just after Boston Marathon, and it is unbelievably scenic. It's just one of the highlight marathons to do. They only take a very, very limited number of people into the intake of that one as well. So to be able to get a place in that is quite hard. And a lot of people like to try and do it as Big Sur and Boston as a double. But just to be able to do the Big Sur Marathon would be amazing for me. It's so scenic, so beautiful. And best way to see the Californian coast.
Yeah, it's sort of the central northern part of California.
Yeah.
On the coastline. So you run right along the coastline, up near Monterey, up that area.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you did steal someone else's bucket list because the Big Sur was on mine, but that's sometimes the risk we have. And it does look such an amazing marathon. As you go across the Bixby Bridge, there is a solo grand piano player that plays. And there is a limit. There's 4,500 people that are limited to run it. Even though in 2024 they had 4,994, the event the year before saw 5,800. So while I would love to, that is not correct. 4,500 is the limit. But in the last 2 years, they've only had 3,300 runners. So an amazing marathon. So great choice, Tara.
Excellent. Yeah. And my other one would be Any of the Disney races, as everyone knows, I love Disney. The races are amazing, but I really would like to do the Disneyland race. Now, I haven't done the Disneyland races because they had been cancelled for quite a few years, but that would be on my bucket list as well, because I've done Disney World, so I've done the Dopey Challenge, I've done the marathon, the half marathon, 10, 5, and everything there. But to be able to do the Disneyland in Anaheim would be absolutely 100% on my bucket list. So that's normally in around about January that gets held as well. And you used to be able to do what's called the coast to coast double. So you'd be able to do like the Dopey Challenge at the start of January and then go the weekend after and go straight into Disneyland and run the half marathon, or what's called, I think, is it the Princess?
It's
No.
it's all different.
Yeah.
It's all different things, and so they even have some in September as well. They've really expanded the amount of races back at Disneyland now. I'm lucky up on 5 and a 10K, but that was years ago. But just quickly circling back on Queenstown, one thing I loved about Queenstown, I did the half marathon, was after, and this won't surprise you guys or any of our listeners, after the half marathon, my first stop, Ferg Burger.
Oh, absolutely.
No better post-race recovery than having a good old juicy burger.
Yep, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
Fur Burger is Queenstown iconic burgers. So that's the place that you go. You line up for about an hour and a half waiting for your burger, and it's worth it. It is worth it.
That followed by Patagonia ice cream at the ice cream shop in the middle of Queenstown. Has a chocolate fountain there where they put your ice cream underneath the chocolate fountain.
Awesome. So what were they again? Big Sur, Queenstown,
and Disneyland.
And Disneyland. These Disney marathons keep showing up, don't they? So
yeah, they got good bling.
One day, Tony, one day.
One day, maybe. Let's see what happens. Tim, let's go to yours, seeing that you've been laid up and doing nothing for the last couple of days.
Yeah, I've been doped up on some really good drugs. So who knows? And the first one probably shows I'm doped up on really big drugs, because I don't know if the first one is one event or 7 events, but I would really love one day to do the 7 marathons in 7 continents in 7 days.
Oh, yes.
And there are a couple of races around. There's one called the Great World Race, and there's another mob out there that do the same thing as well. And essentially, it's exactly what it says. It's running in 7 different continents, 7 days. And basically, they take limited number of people that they can fit onto a small to large commercial jet. Fly you down to Antarctica for the first event in Antarctica, then up to Cape Town, do a second event there for Africa, then generally across to Perth for a run around Perth. And then this is where it differs a little bit. I think for this mob, the Great World Race, they stop in Istanbul. Istanbul straddles both Asia and Europe, so you'll do 2 races in 2 days, depending on which side of Istanbul you're in. I think the other race company does it at Dubai in the Middle East as their Middle Asia race, and then they'll do another one in Spain, in Madrid. But yeah, 2 days in Istanbul, and then you come across to South America, usually up the top there in Cartagena, and then from there up to Miami and finish in Miami. So you get all 7 continents done in 7 days, and I reckon it'd be awesome. You get 7 race medals, 1 for each race, plus another one for finishing, and the one for finishing is bigger than all of them. So, but race fees are expensive. You're paying for entry to all 7 races. You're paying for the airfares for all those legs along the way, plus food, plus accommodation and everything else. So I think you're looking at well in excess of 100,000 Australian dollars just to be able to do that event. But that would be one on my bucket list to go and do. I just think it looks really awesome, and it looks like a challenge. So there you go. Entry fee for this one, 49,500 euros.
Wow.
So, which can be paid in installments of 16,500 euros. And then you've got to get your way home to and from as well. So you've got to get yourself to Cape Town from wherever you are in the world, and obviously fly yourself home from Miami afterwards as well. So, there's a lot of a lot of work involved in that one. But they're generally run in November, December most years in the summertime for the Southern Hemisphere, so they can get planes into Antarctica. And, you know, looks fun, looks appealing. It looks like a challenge and a half. Yeah, that's one event.
So you'd hate to be worried about cut-off times. And
I think they're pretty generous. I think they're... Yeah, the cutoff is if you don't make it back to the aeroplane, they take off without you and leave you. I think the cutoffs are around about 6.5 hours or something, maybe 7 hours. So they are pretty generous cutoffs. So yeah, just
wow.
Yeah, it depends on the company that's doing it, but I think they're around about that 6.5, 7 hours. So, but then you've got to get on a plane, you've got to shower, you've got to get some sleep on those legs, on the flying legs. You've got to fuel yourself. You've got massages that you've got to do, all the recovery stuff you need to do in very short periods of time. So
I'll be happy to cheer you on doing that, Tim.
So is that a 7 marathon bucket list, Tim? So you've already taken up 7 marathons as your bucket list.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm on drugs at the moment, so who knows whether it's 7 events or 1 event. I don't know.
It's 1 event. Keep going.
Yeah, the next event, because I think we're talking events, is one that I've followed for quite some time on my socials, and one that I'd love to do one day. It's called the Midnight Sun Marathon. It's a combination of races. They do a marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5K, and a 800-meter race for the little kids. They get about 6,000 participants every year. It is run in a place called Tromsø, which is in Norway, and it's the sort of the highest part of Norway, up in the Arctic Circle. So you're about 350 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. And you're on this small island surrounded by beautiful sea and mountains. It's run at midnight in the height of summer on the 21st of June. So it's the longest day of the year. So in that part of the world, the sun doesn't set and you're running at midnight in the daylight. So that alone would be pretty cool to do. And as I said, to run a marathon up there in what looks like daytime, but it's actually 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, would just be pretty surreal as well to do it, I reckon. So that's my second one.
Yeah, I agree. I like some of those ones up there. The one that Tara spoke about last time that I can't pronounce. Reykjavik. That one looks amazing. That Midnight Sun one looks amazing. So yeah, I would consider those.
Yeah, the Midnight Sun one's been going for quite a few years. It started in 1990. So what's that, 35 years it's been going for this year. And it looks like a really good event. All the social media that I've seen has been really good. The medals look really good. And it just, I think it will be a difficult spot to get to from Australia. It wouldn't be cheap getting there, but I think it would be a pretty awesome and fun experience being up in the top of Norway. And then my last one is a bit of a kooky one, a bit of a different one. You're probably never going to pick it, but it's called the Moorea Marathon, and it's in Tahiti. And the only reason why I wanted to do this was it's probably the only time I'd ever get to Tahiti to be able to go and then have a post-marathon recovery at Bora Bora. So go over there, run the marathon in Tahiti on this stunning, beautiful island surrounded by white sand and seas in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And then afterwards, go and do the recovery on Bora Bora, which is quite appealing. Lots of rum in coconuts and little umbrellas sticking out of drinks and all that sort of stuff. But it just looks like a really fun event. Not a big event. It doesn't get huge numbers, but it looks like what you would expect to see from a tropical paradise marathon with, locals handing out food and drinks along the way and, fairly low key, but well organized event by the looks of it.
Excellent. So far, we have had some amazing bucket lists, and someone's got to bring the tone down, and I believe that's going to be me, right? So Did you know Cincinnati was once known as Porkopolis? Right? It's very important to know that because the first marathon I'm going to talk about is called the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati, Ohio. So it's driven by craft beer, Cincinnati. It's there's a lot of energy. The medals are flying pigs. It's probably the only place that you can combine a marathon, beer, and seeing pigs fly. So is part of the fun. Really good crowd support. They've got swag. The medals are amazing. And let me just pull out the stats. So it's held May 4, and the next one is obviously in 2025. 6:30, they get between 5,000 and 6,000 participants, and not a major, but decent enough. Overall, they've got a large number of other events that go with it. So the actual running festival brings 40,000 people into Cincinnati. And yeah, it just looks like a lot of fun. So I just would love to do that. The great post-race celebrations is what's holding me, especially at the moment. I'm on my alcohol-free February, and to have a great post of Cincinnati craft beer. Hopefully they would have a brewery called the Flying Pig Brewery. So I just think it's going to be a great race to do. Obviously, there's costume runners that runs as pigs. So the whole thing is based around pork and the heritage of the city. It takes you through Cincinnati, over the Ohio River, and into northern Kentucky. So it looks an amazing little fun event. And so I would love to do it. Of course, we've already talked about the Big Sur, and I would love to do that. Although it does worry me, that one, in terms of the limited numbers on the course. So I don't, I'm not one that I love scenery, but I'm not sure if I would love scenery running by myself. So that would be my only thing that holds me back from the Big Sur. But once again, I just think, why not? And I don't think there'll be any surprises with my third one. I would love to run the Honolulu Marathon in December. It's a scenic course. It takes you through downtown Honolulu, Waikiki Beach, Diamond Head. There's no time limit, so you can just have a lot of fun. It's an early morning start. The race kicks off at 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's nice and dark at that time in Hawaii. There is a real aloha spirit right around the event. And I think Reese was on the show recently that just talked about how amazing it was to go on holidays, and it's like spring break for marathoners, I think was his quote. So I say, why not get into that? That sounds like a really cool thing. So in recent years, it's seen about 36,000 entries into Honolulu. So it's certainly, I think it's the fourth largest now in America. So it's fantastic. And of course, if you run the Merry Mile and the Start to Park, you may get that big kahuna medal, but I'm not sure how it works physically, because I think the Start to Park and the marathon are run at the same time. So, All righty.
We ran into two people at Parkrun on Saturday who were wearing the Miracle Mile shirt, the same one you got, and they were there and did the Miracle Mile, Merry Mile, and the marathon, and said they couldn't do any of the other events because they were too stacked up on top of one another.
Yeah.
But they said it was a lot of fun and the marathon was awesome. So yeah. I wouldn't mind doing it at some stage, and maybe, just maybe, Tara and I might be able to squeeze it in next year. We'll just see how we go.
Yeah, I think 2026 might be on the cards for me and Sharon too. And I knocked two of my bucket lists out of the way this year with Townsville and Amsterdam. So why not knock out another one next year in 2026? That's what bucket lists are for, aren't they?
Exactly. And also at the end, with the one in Honolulu, can't remember what they're called. It's a sweet filled with custard, and apparently where it finishes, they've got the van and you can get like a custard donut type thing, and apparently they're meant to be absolutely amazing.
I love Lucia and how she knows all this food that's going to be at marathons.
So I just sent you a link also, Tony, that there is a Flying Pig Brewing Company in Ohio, but I don't think it's in Cincinnati.
Okay. They've actually got a sculpture, a flying pig sculpture, a statue on the city's riverfront. So why not? It just sounds a good, fun place to go. So that was our bucket list. So did we match? Do you think we've matched with any of our listeners?
I think some potentially. I don't know how many of our listeners would have the Krispy Kreme run as a bucket list item, but you never know.
I reckon we'd have a couple of people that want to do what Tim wants to do, the 7 in 7.
Yeah, I'd love to do that one.
Tara, thoughts?
Well, I like the idea of my one, so it's easy for me to say. I like the idea of your one though, with the beer and stuff like that, because everyone knows how to hydrate before a marathon. So yeah.
Flying Pig looks really good. I've seen that one before as well and thought of it as a special one. So, but a lot of those American ones, the big American events, they are all quite special because they do go over the top with everything. The medals, the t-shirts, the before and after bling and merch and everything else that they have, as well as the food. They always do put on a good show, some of those American events.
So if you have an American event that's on your bucket list, let us know. Put it in the comments of wherever you're listening to this. Hey, so now usually we're coming towards the end, of course, and we would normally have Tim's tip, but because he's sitting on the bench this week and he's trying to be sedate and quiet, we're going to pass that over to Lucia for Lucia's tip. So away you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. What I thought I'd circle back on, something very basic in which we've covered before, but it's a timely reminder for those of us running here, well, whether it be New South Wales or Queensland, anywhere here in Oz at the moment where it's hot and humid, is hydration. Because they often say it's too, once you're thirsty, you're past the point. So I thought I'd cover just a few tips. Always have something to drink prior to running, about 30 to 60 minutes, just to make sure your body is hydrated before you start running. And make sure you're hydrating during longer runs as well. So anything, let's say, over 30 minutes, make sure you either carry some water with you or plan your route around some bubblers. And if you're going on even longer runs, where possible, try and use a hydration pack. One with either in which you can put flasks in the front, or if not, a bladder, and try and if you're using the flasks, maybe have one with water and one with a bit of electrolyte as well, just to help with those balances of the salt replacement and the minerals as well. But with those ones, just be careful of the sugar content as well. Now, this one may seem a bit silly, but sometimes I know I've been guilty of it. Avoid over drinking because your body, you think you're hydrated and you just keep drinking and drinking, and sometimes that can actually cause issue. So just be very careful, and also also know the signs of when you're dehydrated. And some of those could be if you're feeling tired, dizziness, dry mouth. And also, if your urine is dark in color, those are signs in which you may be dehydrated. And so make sure. So if you see any of those signs, make sure you stop your run and you hydrate as well. And one of the things that I do when it's running, and if it's hot and humid, sometimes when I stop at a water fountain, I'll put water on my cap and just put that on the body. Wear a cooling towel. And Tara has said this one a few times as well. Actually, put water on your wrists as well. So it's just the simple tips, which I think is a timely reminder as now we're experiencing the hot and humid conditions here in Australia. So that's that is Lucia's tip for the week.
Well done. If you closed your eyes, you could swear it was Tim talking.
Just on that though, I'll add one other thing. I saw on a YouTube video during the week a runner who was running at the GC50, and unfortunately I can't remember his name, so I can't give him credit. But he froze his caps in Ziploc bags the night before the race, and he had 2 caps, so that GC50, or he ran the half marathon, it was 2 laps. So he ran one with a cold cap on, and then he got the second one handed to him as he started his second loop and put the second cold cap on, because you lose a lot of your heat through your head. So putting a colder cap on helped reduce some of that the heat loss. So there you go. I haven't tried it myself, but it might be something to try, putting your caps in the freezer the night before.
It certainly gives another idea about brain freeze, doesn't it? So,
and I know myself, just back to your hydration pack there, Lucia, with my hydration pack, I have, I just put water into my backpack bladder, and I do use only the flasks at the front for my electrolytes, and that's only so that I'm not cross-contamination and having to clean out my bladder as often, because it's harder to clean. But you can actually fill the bottom of it up with with water, freeze it, and then top it up with water, so you've got sort of a cold bit on your back as well, which keeps your back nice and cold, and it gives you cold water as you're drinking as well, or cooler water, because obviously it doesn't last forever, but it keeps your back cooler and it gives you a little bit of cooler water as well.
Great tips. Great tips. I would never have guessed that. I don't run with a hydration vest, but I'm sure that those that do have found that very, very valuable. Thank you so much, Lucia, for your tips. Tara, let's look at what's happening next week.
Excellent. So next week, as we all know, Tokyo Marathon is upon us very, very fast. So we're going to give some tips and tricks on Tokyo Marathon. We've all done it, obviously. So diving into the Tokyo Marathon, it's one of the most iconic races in the world. From its electric atmosphere and its elite competition to the cultural experience of running through the heart of Tokyo, we'll break down what makes this world major a must-run event. Whether you're chasing an Abbott World Major Marathon star or just dreaming of running past Shibuya Crossing, this episode is for you. Tune in for the race insights, fun facts, and the ultimate Tokyo Marathon experience.
Yeah, looking forward to this one, because at this time of year, what happens, Lucia, Tim, and Tara, is everyone's worried about the rules and the cutoffs, correct?
Yeah.
And the jackets for Tokyo, because Tokyo's are renowned for not having enough merch at the expo, which we'll cover next week.
They sold out of their pre-sale.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tara, for that. That concludes the show for the week. We love, as you know, making these podcasts for you. Thank you to my co-hosts for joining us, especially Tim. Hey, Tim, what's the verdict on when you're running again?
Who knows? Whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
Tara's face was priceless.
Just means I'm getting further in front of him on rundown.
Sorry. Tara, when is the verdict on when Tim is running again?
Look, I would give him probably at least a good month before he can. I think the exercise bike downstairs is going to get used very, very well by the weekends.
All the doctor said the other day was I couldn't run Sunday, which was my long run day, because I asked, could I run tomorrow? And he said no. He didn't say anything else about when I could run again. So, but I do need to follow it up. I do need to see a surgeon about this arm and whether or not they operate on it. And I guess he will then, or she will then, provide me with further input and insights into what it is. But no matter what I do, I'm not going to be silly with it. I've got too much running to do this year, and I'm not going to be silly. I will, especially with my ribs the way they are. They are painful and they hurt, and trying to run on them now would be almost excruciating. So I'm not going to be stupid. I'll do it when my body tells me it's right to start running, and I'll ease my way back into it very easily.
Excellent. So Listen to medical advice and come back slowly.
Listen to your body.
Maybe
No,
you might have to. Maybe you might have to have a pre-week before you start running again. So, but thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We love making these podcasts for you. Your feedback, as always, means the world to us. So like, comment, message us on Instagram, Facebook, or Messenger, or on our Spotify platform where we host our podcast. You can email us at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. So if you've got any tips, let us know. If you want to share what your bucket lists are, let us know. You can watch this episode on Spotify and YouTube, or listen in on Amazon, Apple, Amazon, and all the major podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we're going to see you next time on the Flying Runner podcast. Happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.